Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabeth Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabeth Bachman.
Hello and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host, and this is the podcast where we interview experts from around the world on how to use presentation skills to move your listeners to take action. Before we begin, I want to invite you to take our free assessment. It only takes 4 minutes, and that's where you can see where you are strong with your presentation skills and where you might need a little bit of extra support. Today, I'm talking about, do you feel invisible? Or how to use presentation skills to help women be heard. Now, I work with people from men and women in many ways, many diverse men and women. If you're having trouble being heard because of, let's say, ethnic issues, because you're a minority, or there is an unconscious bias that's in the way, contact me. We can talk about this. Today, I am talking about the gender-based problems where women aren't heard by men or by other women. This is a presentation that I have done for many groups around the country, and I'm hoping that you are going to enjoy it. Here we are. Do you feel invisible? Presentation skills to help women be heard. As you heard, I'm Elizabeth Bachman. The reason I know about this is because I have been working my way up through a male-dominated business when I was one of the early female opera directors in America. I ran an opera program for 15 years. I spent 8 years training business presenters. I am now the host of this podcast, Speakers Who Get Results, and I run the Visible and Valued Mastermind. And to tell you the truth, I'm only here because I've made all the mistakes. I'm going to invite you to write this down. Now, if you're listening while you're driving or walking or moving around the house, you may want to go back and pause to take notes, because I'm going to be sharing things that have saved me thousands of dollars when I followed these tips, and frankly, cost me thousands of dollars when I forgot them. The first thing is, why did you tune in today? What is it about this title, Do You Feel Invisible, that spoke to you? The reason I want you to write it down is because this is going to help you as you move forward to define what the problem is. My intention today is to talk to you about how to get the recognition you deserve, how to show up as a thought leader in your industry as well as within your company, and a little bit about how to actually get it done. First of all, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I highly recommend that you take the quiz. That's speakforresultsquiz.com, and you can find out in 4 minutes where you're strong and where your presentation skills are serving you, where you might need a little bit of support. Now, I find many people, as they've taken this quiz, have discovered that they're not valued for what they bring. They understand that this will help their career. Their team might value what they're doing, but they're not really being listened to. Or maybe you're so good at your job that you're taken for granted, and then you see the promotions going to flashier people, younger people, people who are showing up more. We'll talk about that a little bit later. You might find that although you understand that presentation skills are great for you, you don't know where to go, how to find the right places to speak. Or you might just find out that you're not being heard. Have you ever sat in a meeting and suggested something, and then 5 minutes later somebody else says, "Oh, I have this great idea," and they say the same thing you just said? It happens a lot. Even after all the progress that's been made over the last 10, 20 years, I'm appalled at how often this still happens. Or you might find that you're being listened to, but your recommendations are ignored. Maybe you're one of those people who says, "I can see that there's a problem coming up," but nobody wants to hear it. It happens a lot. The reason I care about this is it's all happened to me. I've had to pivot and then pivot again. I started out as an actor, then I became a stage director for opera, then I ran an opera company, and now I am a presentation skills trainer where I am leveraging all the skills that I learned in 30 years of running a company, training opera singers, to help people get the results that they need. So the next thing I want you to write down, or even say it out loud if you're listening to this in the car, is what do you really want when you present your ideas? Are you presenting for sales? Are you presenting to get allies? Maybe you're presenting to investors who might help you, or presenting yourself to a mentor within your company. Or maybe are you presenting to get recognition, to raise your visibility? Write this down and then go back and listen, because I think you'll get a lot of benefit out of it. The reason why it matters is to have more women out there speaking is because the statistics show that companies with diverse leadership, and this is all about getting you into leadership, companies with diverse leadership have much better profits. Really, the best way is to have a variety of opinions, a variety of speaking styles, learning styles, a variety of backgrounds, so that you can truly get the kinds of ideas that you want. Being stuck in a rut is what kills a company. And remember the old saying, a rut is just a coffin with the ends kicked out. It also matters to get women out there speaking because there are still more men out there speaking on stages than women. Unless you're in a women's group, then it's mostly women. This is a podcast where most of my listeners are women, so most of my speakers are women. But in the general world, especially the world of business, there are still 90% men. And we take it for granted. We're so used to it. So the more you are out there speaking, showing up as a thought leader, not only are you helping your career, helping your visibility, not only are you spreading your ideas, your important information, but you're also inspiring the younger ones who haven't quite gotten up the nerve to go out there and speak, or the ones who have good ideas, but they're a little afraid. So remember, as a speaker, saying, yes, I'll be the speaker, or saying, please, I would like to be the speaker, will help you show up and inspire other people. To get the results, I think it breaks down into strategy, script, and style. The strategy means knowing who you want to talk to, where to find them. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The script is important because once you know who you want to speak to and who do you want to have listen to you, you have to be sure that you are phrasing what you want to say in a way that they can get it. You have to choose a topic that will have them pay attention and have them understand what's in it for them. Again, we'll talk more about that in a minute. And of course, style, that's you. the most important part of speaking is you. You are the heart of it. Your confidence, your charisma, all of this is what helps you show up. And remember, anytime you're trying to sell an idea, move people to take action, that's kind of an enrollment conversation, kind of sales. And buying decisions are emotional. We know that from sales. So if you're trying to get them to buy into your idea, you and you being there is what's going to make the difference. So let's talk about strategy. Who needs to hear you, and what do you want them to do? If you're going to move them to take action, what action do you want them to take? Write this down. Who are you speaking to? Who's not listening to you now? And what do you want them to do? More importantly, what do they need to believe about you in order to do what you want? They need to believe that you are strong, trustworthy, easy to work with, that you know what you're doing, and they need to believe that it matters. The solution is match your message to the room. Write that down. Match your message to the room. Or as I often say about any kind of presentation, rule number 1 is make it about them. What is it that they need to believe, and who are the right people? Who are you speaking to? My client Janet was really frustrated because she was excellent at solving problems, very good. She'd made it to senior director, but couldn't get to be vice president or even to C-level. She was being taken for granted. And because she was so good at solving problems, the company kept giving her more and more problems to solve and other projects to do without the recognition or the promotion and the raise that should have gone with the extra work. So we worked out a strategy and a script for her that when she was going to take on the next project, and it was a project that actually was going to encompass the whole company, she went to every person in the C-level and laid out her strategy. Instead of just fixing it, because she was going to be able to fix it, that wasn't an issue. She went to them and she said, I'd like to show you my strategy for bringing about the change that we're looking for. And then she laid out the strategy, and we found something for each member of the C-level that was part of that C-level person's expertise. So there was something she could ask them about. Either, you know these people better than I do, I'd like your advice, or something like that, so that she enrolled them in the solution. She managed to get every single one of the C-level directors enrolled in the project, understanding the strategy, and they actually created a new position for her. She got the promotion, the title, the raise, and the recognition. I mentioned briefly about the script. You also have to say it in a way that they can listen. And some of this is about, if you are a multi-focused person and you can keep lots of ideas in your head, but the people who are listening are single-focused people. Often that's women are multi-focused and men are single-focused, but not always. It happens, you find it in both situations, both genders. If you're a multi-focused person, you can't just throw a lot of ideas at a single-focused person. You have to give them one at a time in a sequential way, because that's the way they need to hear it. Frankly, I believe that we all have multi-focused moments and single-focused moments. It's situational. There are certainly plenty of times where I'm single-focused, I'm going to get this project done, and if you approach me with many different possibilities, I can't handle it. I just say, wait, just tell me one thing. And vice versa. If you are a single-focused person and you're working with a multi-focused person, you need to be aware that they understand the connections. We have other episodes of this podcast about gender communication and miscommunication, and how to help men and women understand each other. Phrase it in a way that they can listen, and don't forget to include the benefit. What is it that they're going to care about? For instance, if you're doing a speech to the finance committee, you want to make sure that you include the statistics, because that's what they're going to care about. On the other hand, if you're giving a speech to say a women's social network that does charitable work, you want to talk more about the mission and the heart-centered basis of what you do. And if you're going to include the statistics, include them, but the focus should be about the heart-based. It's all about them. Make it about them and how they are going to be able and willing to listen. Style is how you show up. Are you friendly? Do you have nerves? One of the ways I like to think about battling nerves is if you've got stage fright, most of the time it's because of the things that your inner voices are saying, that inner critic. I don't know about you, but I don't have one voice in my head. I have a whole choir. And if they're all yelling at me, well, the whole choir, it's hard to hear. It's hard to make it about them, as I said earlier. So if you think about your listeners as guests at your party, you are inviting them in to something that you've prepared, your presentation, and you're offering them a gift. Remember, you're not actually asking them to give up something by doing what you want them to do. You're asking them to benefit and invest in themselves, invest in the company by taking this action that will benefit everybody. So remember, you are the gift. There's a great deal about this also in other parts of the podcast, so I'm not going to go on to that too much, because here's the other piece. Don't just think, once you can use these techniques to be listened to in your company, don't go to sleep. Don't forget, because that you need to leverage your visibility also outside the company. One of the reasons is you get them to listen to you once, but if they've been taking you for granted, they might take you for granted again. Might happen after a while that they're not listening. Or people will change and there are different people who need to listen. So you need to think of this as a two-pronged thing. Show up as a thought leader. Here we are, thought leadership. It's back to being the strategy. You need to show that you are a strategic thinker, a thought leader. As I said in Janet's case, if you show up, one of the best ways to do that is to speak outside the company. And frankly, if you're not speaking outside the company now, the higher you rise, the more you're going to be asked to speak. So make sure that you have ideas that will establish you as a thought leader. My client, Pamira, she's a technical person. She's a chief technical officer, and she's known for her technical skills. What we've been doing with her is establishing her as a thought leader and a strategic thinker. And sometimes it's just saying, well, I know you invited me here because I've got the technical information. But to tell you the truth, there's a lot of strategy involved in this. And as a strategic thinker, I'm going to tell you the why behind what we're doing instead of just the what. That has made a huge difference in her career. She is now known as a thought leader in her technical area. It is strategy and script. Now, I know a lot of people come to me and they say, okay, I want to set myself up as a thought leader. I want to show up, but what could I say? How do I do it? Well, here's one of the things. If you're not sure what your special sauce could be, what would your special speech be, think about what ideas And especially, what is it that bothers you in your industry? Do you have any pet peeves? And I am giving you permission to complain, just briefly. But one of the great ways to do this is to meet with your friends and open a bottle of wine or sit around and just talk about things that bug you, and then what should be done instead. That can often be the start of a great speech of, here's what we don't want. So what do we want instead? How can we do this? It's all about short-term and long-term plans. So the strategy is to have you be heard using the many, many, many tools of presentation skills. Once again, if you have not yet taken the quiz, I invite you to go to speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com, and take 4 minutes to enjoy, to look at this and try it out and see where you are in terms of speaking. And if you're really interested in being heard, using these tools to be heard, then you can reach out to me. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast today. This has been Speakers Who Get Results. I am Elizabeth Bachman. I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.